There are words that don't sound like yelling, but they cut just as deep. No insults, no confrontations, just a soft, everyday voice hiding the sharpest blade, the voice of a woman who no longer respects you, but won't say it outright. Because respect doesn't vanish all at once. It erodes. It wears down through small phrases, small sacrifices, small humiliations that you, without even realizing it, start to accept. Until one day, you're no longer her man. You're just a shadow. Today I'm going to reveal the 8 exact phrases a woman says when she's completely lost respect for you as a man. Some sound sweet, others sound spiritual, and some seem thoughtful. But they all have one goal: to chip away at your worth without you noticing. And the last one is the deadliest. Because when she says it, it means she's already buried her desire for you. I'm Celia, psychologist, therapist, and the woman who won't lie to comfort you. I'm going to show you what she really thinks of you when you're no longer willing to see it. Stay until the end. Because if you recognize these phrases, you still have time to wake up. But if you ignore them, you'll end up being the man she no longer respects, but still uses. Have you noticed that some touches no longer spark anything? That words that once made her tremble now do nothing? That kisses still happen, but don't carry any charge? Then ask yourself this, with brutal honesty: when was the last time she desired you for no reason at all? If you have to think too long, you already know the answer. You're at the first point in this video, and what I'm about to tell you won't be comfortable. When a woman says, "Not everything has to be physical," it's not tenderness, it's mourning. She's burying, without saying it, the desire she once felt for you. She says it sweetly, almost like it's some kind of spiritual lesson, like you're the insensitive one, the immature one, the one who doesn't understand a deeper connection. But the truth is this: if a woman still desires you, she doesn't need to justify anything. She doesn't need to talk about desire. She feels it, she chases it, she dives in. The body doesn't lie. But when she starts talking about physical contact like it's optional, like connection can survive on affection alone, what she's really saying is something far more brutal. I don't want to touch you anymore, but I don't want to say it out loud. Picture the scene, a couple in bed. He reaches out to her with a timid touch, the clumsy desire of someone who still loves her, still wants her. And she turns away. Not harshly, not with contempt. She turns with gentleness, like nothing's wrong. Not everything has to be physical, she says. And he, confused, swallows that phrase as if it's some kind of elevated truth. But it's not a truth, it's a disguise. Because what she's doing isn't preserving the bond. She's numbing it. She's slowly shutting it down, so that when it finally dies, it looks like it happened naturally, like a flower that just wilted on its own. From real psychology, the kind that isn't taught in textbooks, but lived out in every therapy session, I'll tell you this: when a woman loses desire, she starts to rationalize it. She won't admit it, she won't say it out loud, because admitting it would mean facing the fact that her body now lights up at the thought of someone else, and that would make her feel guilty. So instead, she turns you into the insensitive one, the desperate one, the one who only thinks about the physical. That's how she clears her conscience, while you lose your dignity without even realizing it. But the most dangerous part isn't the phrase itself. The most dangerous part is that you accept it, that you believe it, that you start to think desire is something built through patience, respect, affection, when in reality, desire is sparked by energy, by presence, by masculinity. And if it's gone, if she no longer feels it, then what you have isn't love, it's routine, it's pity, it's a relationship with no body and no soul. So burn this into your mind. When a woman says, "Not everything has to be physical," she's not talking about a deep connection. She's quietly announcing that the desire is dead. And if you take that as maturity, then the one who died, without knowing it, was you. If you've already accepted that the desire is gone, no matter how much they disguise it as a deep connection, then you're ready to see what comes next. Because when a woman stops touching you, stops seeking you out, stops feeling that spark with you, she doesn't stay silent. She takes the next step, one that seems harmless, but is actually the most lethal. We've reached the second key point of this video, and it's a phrase many men have heard, without realizing the poison behind it. I need time for myself. It sounds mature, it sounds like self-discovery, but in 90% of cases, I'd tell you, it's just a cover. She's not asking for space to heal. She's not trying to reconnect with herself. What she wants is freedom, an emotional window to rehearse her new life without fully letting go of the old one. And if you allow it, if you agree gently, thinking it's just a phase, you've already lost her respect. Because a man who gives time with no boundaries is unknowingly signing his own defeat. In real psychology, this is nothing more than emotional infidelity in disguise. She doesn't dare to leave. She doesn't want the guilt. She doesn't want to be seen as the one who broke the family, the one who ended the relationship. So she drops that phrase like a sigh, like a personal need. I need time for myself. But that self already has a name, a face, a fantasy, a new object of desire that's already taking up space in her mind. You don't know him yet, but he exists, and he's already more important than you. The Stoics talked about self-mastery, not reacting from emotion, but from clarity, and this is when you need that clarity the most. Because if you, as a man, don't understand that this phrase is an emotional maneuver, you'll end up waiting, you'll end up justifying, you'll end up adapting to a subtle betrayal while she finds herself. But she already knows. She knows she wants to feel something you no longer spark in her. She just can't say it without shattering her image, so she'd rather look introspective while she tries on other bodies in her mind or in real life. And what do? You say yes. You give her the time. You give her the space. You give her your dignity. And you become the obedient, understanding, castrated man. Because the man who waits for a woman who's already walking away isn't being patient. He's being naive, and naivety isn't a virtue when you're dealing with a woman who no longer respects you. This is the moment you need to stand up, not with anger, with resolve. Because if a woman tells you, I need time for myself, you have two choices. Either confront her clearly and set the boundary, or become her emotional support while someone else makes her tremble. You decide, but don't come crying later about a betrayal you allowed through your silence. A woman who respects you doesn't need time, she needs truth. And if she's not giving it to you, it's because she's already decided. She just can't admit it yet. And you, if you don't act, if you don't cut ties, if you don't stand firm as a man, you're no longer her partner, you're her backup, and backups aren't respected, they're used. After a woman asks for time for herself, what follows isn't a pause, it's an emotional reclassification. She starts to reposition you, no longer as her man, but as someone dear, close, yet without any spark. And that's when the most destructive phrase shows up, disguised as tenderness. I love you, but as a friend. We've reached the third point in this video, and this is where things really shift. Because if you don't see it clearly, you'll keep believing there's still something between you. But there isn't. There's affection, yes, but it's affection without desire. And for a man, that's the doorway to emotional death. When a woman hits you with that phrase, she's not being honest, she's being cowardly, because she doesn't want to walk away all at once, but she also doesn't want to keep touching you. She wants to keep you close, without any responsibility. And the worst part is, she makes it sound like a virtue, like she's honoring you, like she's protecting something special. But what she's really doing is reassigning your role in her life to something harmless, an emotional crutch, a companion, a sweet memory, but not a man. The move here isn't to argue, it's not to beg, it's to act with brutal awareness. You weren't made to be friends with a woman who once desired you, because accepting that friendship means letting her keep the best parts of you, your attention, your time, your presence, without giving you what defines the connection between a man and a woman, desire. And if you stay, trying to win her back with tenderness, with patience, with the nice guy act, you're digging your own emotional grave. She won't desire you again. She'll thank you. she'll call you important, but in her bed, there's already someone else. The strategy you need is simple, but it takes strength. Respond with elegance, but with firmness. When she says, "I love you as a friend," look at her with a calm that stings and say, "I'm not your friend, I'm a man, and I wasn't born to be loved halfway." Then leave. No drama, no complaints. Leave with the dignity of someone who knows that respect is not up for negotiation. Because when you draw that line, you don't just reclaim your center, you hold up the mirror to her. You show her that you won't stay where the fire is gone, and that, though she won't admit it, hits harder than any plea. This works because it interrupts her emotional game. It forces her to see that you won't settle for a consolation prize, that if she no longer chooses you as her man, she doesn't get to keep you as her support. And that's the key to rebuilding your value, not through effort, but through boundaries. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and hit like if this video already helped you see something you've been avoiding. Drop a comment with the country you're watching from, and just write this: "I'm not her friend," because there are still lessons ahead that could change everything. And the last one is the one that will decide whether you keep living in her shadow or become her impossible once again. After she tells you she loves you as a friend, you might think you've hit rock bottom, that there's no lower point of emotional degradation. But there is, and it's more subtle, more insidious, harder to expose. Because now she doesn't reject you with sweetness, she does it with guilt. She starts to accuse you without raising her voice, without arguing, without losing her composure. And you, with a confused heart, fall right into the trap. We've reached the fourth point of this video, and it's that phrase that sounds like a soft judgment, but rewires the entire relationship. You've changed too. That you too is a calculated reversal. Up until now, you were the one sensing something was wrong, the one feeling the distance, the one asking questions. But with that phrase, she flips the script. She turns you into the problem, not because she wants to heal the relationship, but because she needs a cover. She needs to justify her detachment, her coldness, her disconnection. And nothing works better than making you the excuse. You've changed too. As if that explains why she no longer desires you, no longer gives herself to you, no longer respects you. As if the fact that you're no longer the same gives her permission to pull away emotionally without owning her part. This is one of the most common and most destructive mistakes men make when they're trying to win back their place, accepting that guilt. Believing that maybe, yes, they've changed, they've been distant, distracted, cold. And so they start apologizing for things they never actually did. They work 3 times harder to become that man she first met. But they're doing it from guilt, from a wound, from a place of need. And that's where they lose the last bit of respect they still had. The reason this trap works so well is because it hits a deeply masculine nerve, responsibility. A real man, one with honor, feels the weight of his mistakes. And if he's convinced he was the one who failed, he'll do whatever it takes to fix it. But this isn't about fixing, it's about manipulation, about a psychological move that turns her into the victim, just when she's already choosing someone else. And if you're not awake to it, you become her redeemer. You spend months trying to win her back, not realizing she didn't stop loving you because you changed. She stopped because she's already longing for someone else. When you accept that guilt, what you're really doing is surrendering your power. You're saying without realizing it, "I'm the reason you don't respect me anymore." And that's unsustainable, because no woman admires a man who takes responsibility for her lack of desire. Respect isn't built on apologies. It's built on presence, on truth, on strength. If you changed, it's because you grew, because you became more real, because you stopped playing the obedient boy who just wants to be liked. And if she can't handle that change, then the problem isn't your evolution. It's her inability to see you as a whole man. This is where you need to reclaim your stoic mindset. Don't let emotional guilt sweep you away. Observe it. Analyze it. Ask yourself, is she saying this to grow together, or just to give herself a graceful exit? Because if the answer is the latter, your job isn't to improve, it's to walk away, but walk away with your head high, without carrying guilt that isn't yours, without begging for a forgiveness you never owed. And burn this into the deepest part of who you are. A woman who says you've changed too isn't always trying to save the relationship. Many times she's just trying to save her image, while destroying yours. And if you let her, if you accept that role, you're no longer her man. You're her emotional scapegoat. And that, my friend, is the most humiliating place a man can ever stand. After she hits you with, "You've changed too," what comes next isn't reconciliation. It's not dialogue. It's not an attempt to reconnect. It's the subtle shutdown, the emotionally justified withdrawal, the abandonment disguised as exhaustion. We've reached the 5th point in this video, and the phrase that marks this threshold is one of the most common and one of the most cowardly. "I don't want to talk right now. I'm tired." It doesn't sound aggressive, it doesn't sound hurtful, but its effect is devastating, because you, already worn down by weeks or even months of distance, are clinging to any sign of connection. And when you finally gather the courage to talk, to ask, to face what hurts, she throws that line out like a harmless shield. "I'm tired." As if physical fatigue matters more than the emotional collapse already happening in the relationship. As if there's nothing urgent to talk about, when in reality everything is falling apart. The mistake here is believing her, thinking she's really just tired, that it's just not the right time, that tomorrow things will be different. But tomorrow never comes. Because that phrase isn't a pause, it's avoidance. It's not exhaustion, it's indifference. And every time you accept that excuse, you become a partner in your own emptiness. You think you're being patient, but what you're really doing is fading away. Because while you're waiting for the right time to talk, she's already talking to someone else. Maybe not with words, but with desire, with messages, with fantasy, with presence. The same presence she withholds from you, but gives freely to someone else. In deep psychology, this behavior is called progressive detachment. It's the most common way a woman pulls away without leaving. She severs the bond silently, stops talking, stops looking, stops engaging, but she does it with phrases that sound logical, even compassionate. "I'm tired. And what about you? Aren't you tired too? Haven't you been carrying this relationship on your back for years?" But of course, you can't say that, because if you do, you're the insensitive one, the one who doesn't understand, the selfish one. This is where you have to break the pattern. And it's not about demanding, begging, or forcing conversations. It's about reclaiming your dignity, about understanding that when someone denies you a voice, they've already denied you respect. And if you can't talk to her, you don't have a partner. You have a silent presence using tired as an excuse to stay disconnected without giving you any answers. And that shouldn't be tolerated. It should be confronted. The mindset you need is brutally clear. Don't expect explanations from someone who no longer wants to give them. Don't beg for space where you've already been pushed out. And above all, don't normalize indifference. Because every time you accept "I'm tired" as the final answer, you're agreeing to live next to a woman who no longer respects you enough to look you in the eye. And that doesn't heal with time. It heals with a decision. If you're at that stage, stop asking what's wrong. Stop waiting for her. Set the boundary and do it with strength. Because the man who tolerates silence as a way of life ends up becoming the echo of a story that's already been told, without him. And you're not here to be an echo. You're here to be presence, to be force, to be the man a woman doesn't dare to shut down with excuses, because she knows that if she does, she'll lose you for real. Not as punishment, but as consequence, because you're tired too, but not of talking. You're tired of begging for what you deserve by right, respect, clarity, desire, presence. And if you don't get it, you leave, quietly, but with all your strength reclaimed. After hearing "I'm tired" too many times, if you don't act, you enter an even more insidious phase. You get used to it, you become docile, you lose your voice. And when you finally try to reclaim something, you no longer know how to do it without seeming desperate. Because you've accepted so much silence, that any attempt to connect now feels like shouting at the wrong time. This is when many women drop a phrase that sounds like a plea for affection, but is actually a demand for obedience. We've reached the 6th point in this video, and the phrase is, "I don't feel heard." I want you to picture this for a second. You're with her. You're talking, or trying to, but she's not looking at you with tenderness. She's looking at you with judgment. She drops that line with a tone that's part victim, part prosecutor. I don't feel heard, and you, already tired, already guilty, already confused, swallow the blame. You think maybe it's true. Maybe you haven't been present. Maybe you've lacked empathy. Maybe you've been distant. And that's when the emotional self-destruction begins. Because you stop analyzing what's happening. You just start judging yourself. You just try to please. And the moment you try to please, you've already lost. The darkest part of that phrase is its double edge. She's not saying it so you'll listen more. She's saying it so you'll obey better. Because the problem isn't that you don't listen. The problem is that you're not doing what she expects. And since she can't accuse you of not loving her, because you've been there, you've been loyal, you've tried over and over, she accuses you of not listening. But what she really wants is submission. She wants you to say yes, to stop questioning, to give in, to become so compliant that you stop being a man and become a mirror of her emotions, a reflection of what she wants. No space, no strength, no voice. Picture this scene. She tells you she doesn't feel heard. Instead of stepping back and seeing the full context, you go into repair mode. You cancel your boundaries. You shut down your intuition, and you give yourself away. But the more you give, the less she respects you. Because a woman doesn't desire the man who obeys without backbone. She desires the man who listens, but decides, who understands, but doesn't fold. And when you confuse listening with surrendering, you lose the energy a woman needs to see you as her man. When this pattern sets in, there's no real conversation anymore, just hidden emotional manipulation. You start walking on glass. You watch every word, every gesture, every silence. Because you know that if you don't do exactly what she expects, she'll say again that you're not listening. And little by little, you stop speaking. You stop taking a stand. You become a shadow, present, but irrelevant. And a woman who sees you as irrelevant no longer sees you as a man. She sees you as support, and support isn't desired, it's used. This is where change becomes urgent. Because it's not about shouting louder, it's about reclaiming your center, about listening, yes, but without losing yourself, about making it clear that listening is one thing, and betraying your truth just to keep her happy is another. Respect is not something you negotiate, it's something you hold with presence, with direction, with clear boundaries. If she says she doesn't feel heard, ask yourself, is she really not being heard? Or does she just not like what I'm saying? Because if it's the latter, the issue isn't your communication, it's her rejection of your masculinity. And if that's the case, then you have to choose. Keep being her emotional friend who nods sweetly while slowly dying inside, or become once again the man who won't betray himself, even if it makes her uncomfortable. Because the truth is simple. If she needs you to stop being you in order to feel heard, you're not in a relationship anymore. You're in an emotional prison disguised as love. And in there, my friend, you don't breathe. You just survive. If after everything you've already lived, physical distance, flipped guilt, emotional manipulation disguised as exhaustion, you're still there, trying to hold together something that's already broken, then you're at risk of losing something far more serious than a relationship, your ability to look at yourself with respect. Because every phrase you've heard so far wasn't random. It was a pattern, a sequence, conscious or not, designed to extinguish your fire. And the 7th point in this video seals that process. It's the phrase that sounds deep, even poetic, but it's a disguised sentence. Today, we're talking about when a woman says, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you." Don't be fooled by how softly she says it, because behind that, "I love you," is an emotional coffin. She doesn't feel a spark for you anymore. She doesn't imagine you. She doesn't fantasize. She doesn't crave you. But she doesn't want to seem cruel. She doesn't want to be the one who left, so she feeds you that poison wrapped in sugar, as if it were possible to love without choosing, as if love without desire held any value for a man who still wants to be seen as one. She says she loves you, but you're no longer in her fire. And if you believe her, you end up trapped in the worst place possible, the place of the man who's merely tolerated. This phrase is lethal because it leaves you without an argument. You can't confront her, you can't demand anything, because on the surface, she still loves you, but you already know the truth. You've seen it, you've felt it, in her lifeless eyes, in the long silences, in the stillness of her body, in the way she doesn't react when you touch her. The love she claims to feel doesn't move anything. It doesn't warm, doesn't build, doesn't lead anywhere. It's a memory dressed in pretty words, but no energy. And if you don't wake up, you'll end up accepting that lukewarm love as if it were all you deserve. This is the turning point, because if you accept that phrase as truth, you sentence yourself to an emotional life on pause. A relationship that stays alive out of habit, fear, or convenience. But if you have the courage to hear it for what it truly is, a disguised confession that she no longer chooses you, then you can make the decision that a real man makes, to end it, not out of pride, out of respect, because a man who respects himself doesn't accept being loved without being desired. This is the moment where everything you've learned so far has to become action, no more excuses. You can't say, "I didn't know," because now you do. You know that when a woman says this, she's not opening a door, she's closing it, softly, poetically, but closing it just the same. And if you stay, if you settle, then you're no longer fighting for love. You're giving up your dignity. The change won't come from her. It won't come with time. It won't come from you becoming better. It'll come from your decision to stop begging for presents where there is no admiration, from your choice to become the kind of man a woman doesn't dare to lose. Because you're not here to be loved halfway. You're here to be chosen with desire, with respect, with fire. And if she can't give you that, then she's not loving you, she's holding you back. And the man who lets himself be held back by a woman who no longer chooses him becomes her shadow. And you weren't born to be a shadow. You were born to be the center, to be the fire, to be the man no woman dares to leave without regretting it forever. If after hearing, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you," you're still trying to win her back with dinners, flowers, or sweet words, then you've missed the point completely. Because this isn't about convincing her. It's about accepting that she no chooses you anymore. And while you're doing emotional backflips trying to revive a fire that's long dead, she's already somewhere else, thinking of someone else, dreaming about someone else. And you're useful, but not desired. We've reached the 8th and final point of this video, and it's the most brutal because it's no longer disguised. It's the phrase you should take as the final sign. Then don't love me, because I wasn't born to be loved halfway. That's not just an ending, it's a cut, a final line, and it's yours. Because this isn't about what she says, it's about what you do with it. If she's already told you she's not in love, what are you still doing there? Waiting for her to wake up one day and suddenly feel something she's already let go of? That day won't come. What will come is this. She'll keep using you emotionally while she buys time, while she finds the most comfortable way to leave. And if you don't act, if you don't stand firm, then you'll end up accepting to be loved without being touched, to be told "I love you" without being chosen, to be respected without being admired. That's not love. That's emotional charity. And you weren't born to live off scraps. The action you need to take is clear, not symbolic, not emotional, real action. When a woman tells you she's no longer in love, you don't beg, you don't explain, you don't plead, you return her words, and you walk. You look her in the eye and say firmly, without tears, "Then don't love me, because I'm not a memory, I'm a man, and I wasn't born to be loved halfway." And then you walk out of that house, that bed, that story, with your head held high. Because the one who stays waiting for crumbs ends up becoming just a functional object, And a man who respects himself never becomes that. Not ever. But to make this decision real, you need a mindset that can't be found on social media or bought with motivational quotes. You need awareness, brutal awareness. The kind that belongs to men who no longer sell themselves for touch, who no longer negotiate with lukewarm women, who no longer show up where the fire has gone out. That mindset is born from pain, from having betrayed yourself 1,000 times out of fear of losing her, and finally deciding no more. If you're going to lose something, it won't be your essence. It won't be your dignity, because a woman's desire might fade, but her respect for you should never die. And if that respect is gone, then you don't belong there. This final point isn't just the end of the video, it's the beginning of your rebirth. Because if you apply this phrase as a boundary, if you say it clearly, if you feel it truthfully, everything changes. Because now you're no longer waiting for her to come back. You're coming back to yourself. And the man who returns to himself, who reconnects with his power, his direction, his fire, is the man no woman dares to underestimate again. Because he may love her, but never at any cost. Because he chooses himself before begging for love from a woman who no longer desires him. And that, brother, that's where everything begins. If you've made it this far, you're not like the rest. Because most men can't handle the truth. They get offended, defensive, they hide. But not you. You listened to every word. You felt every blow. And still, you stayed. Because deep down, you know, you can't keep ignoring what you see in her eyes, in her gestures, in that lifeless tone in her voice. You can't keep denying that the respect is gone. And if you allow it one more time, it won't be her betraying you. It'll be you, against yourself. I didn't come here today to comfort you. I came to wake you up. Because now you have a decision to make. Keep being the man who accepts empty phrases, soft excuses, manipulations disguised as love, or rise. Become the man a woman doesn't dare to walk away from, not out of fear, out of admiration, because she knows if she loses him, he's gone for good. Type these 4 words in the comments to mark your line in the sand. My respect is not negotiable. And tell me which country you're watching from. I want to know whether men are waking up, men who are no longer willing to be used, dismissed, or dimmed. I'm Celia, and this is your House of Wisdom, a place where the truth isn't sugar-coated, where the unjustifiable doesn't get excused, and where men reclaim what life, fear, or a woman may have taken from them. Their clarity, their direction, their strength. Subscribe if you're ready to stop being the confused man and become the man who chooses himself first. Share this video with that friend who's still trapped in phrases that are quietly destroying him, and he doesn't even see it. Sometimes, all it takes is one word to open your eyes, but it has to come at the right time. And don't leave just yet. Watch the videos that are now appearing on your screen. Choose the one that makes you the most uncomfortable. Because right there, in what hurts the most to watch, is exactly what you need to hear. I'll see you there. This is just the beginning.